It's a great pleasure to welcome Denise Bundred as our guest poet at the first Zoom meeting of Write Out Loud, Woking. Denise was, of course, due to have been our guest poet at the Lightbooks back in March, just before the lockdown put paid to that. She's been a regular at the open mic over the years, and it's wonderful that she's gathered a number of the poems that we've enjoyed hearing during that time about her life as a cardiologist into a pamphlet. One reviewer has written of it: an expert in cardiology and poetry, Denise Bundred is clearly full of wonder at the workings of the heart and transmits that wonder in weighted and precise yet transformative language and images. And I would certainly agree with that. Please welcome Denise Bundred.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Greg. Right, I'll go straight in. A cardiologist seeks certainty. I spread cold gel on a newborn chest, rest the probe on creamy skin, angle between ribs, rotate to find a heart no larger than the tiny hand pushing me away. 2 dimensions defy translation into 3 as I locate chambers amid the maze of vessels. A millimeter of movement and the image melts to a snowstorm on my screen. I retrace arcs of ultrasound to relieve the twist of dart. Adrenaline dries my saliva as I strive to decide whether the aorta arches to the left or right. The nurse checks the prescription against an ampule, initials in black ink, secure in her certainty of drug and dose. The surgeon weighs my words to determine his incision and shape his operation as the incubator trundles towards theatre, escorting mother and the nurse. I resolve inconsistencies into diagnosis, wipe the sweat from my hands, write my notes, make my decision.
Ooh. Wow.
Harvey's symbol. Stand beside me as I needle the femoral vein, thread the catheter up the venous highway, enter the heart. Follow the path you found 4 centuries ago. I'd like to think it came upon you as a rush of blood to the head, but tallow smudges on your sketches suggest uncertain light chasing shadows beyond tiers of empty benches as you pursued venules converging into veins that funneled flow towards the core. Keening from the fever ward could not divert you as you balanced a heart in your hand, opened with a stroke through auricle and ventricle, rinsed with water from your pitcher and dabbed it with a sponge. Perhaps this was the moment when you dissected arteries which diminished until the probe could not define that final bifurcation. I understand you are not a man to run from St. Bartholomew's Anatomy Theatre and bellow at your insomniac lodestar. But when you made that last connection, I imagine you piled forceps, retractor, scalpels, scissors, twine haphazardly in the wooden box on the windowsill beside formaldehyde, tincture of iodine, and poison in a tall blue bottle stoppered with a cork. Did you blow the candles out as if your birthday had come early? At the spring meeting of the College of Physicians, you postulated capillaries you'd never see, rejected Galen and the rest, stated that blood circulates in a figure of 8, heart beating at the crux. In their stale air, you traced the symbol of infinity. Watch this screen as I inject the dye. See a ventricle force flow through the narrowed valve and spill blood across a hole that shouldn't be there.
Ooh.
Part of my work as a cardiologist was to scan babies before they were born if there was a suspicion of a heart condition, and then discuss with parents what that would mean for a child after birth. This poem is called Fetal Scan. They're laughing at a private joke. Her blouse glides a pattern of tiny flowers across her rounded belly. He should be at school, not sitting here in stained jeans, stretched brown t-shirt, love bite purple on his neck. I spread cold gel on her warm skin. You turn inside your mother and show me your heart beating beneath my hand. I see the twisted valve, the missing chamber. Your heart as small as the tiny fist gesturing me away. Leave me alone, don't tell my parents yet. In 5 months' time, when you breathe after that perilous journey into light, your heart will falter and fail. For a few minutes more, they think you are perfect. I was thinking about words that I used as a cardiologist, and when I retired, I missed using that language. I was hungry for those words in my mouth. And then I started thinking about how those words changed when I spoke to the parent of the same child. And this poem is written in couplets, and the first line are the words that I would have said to colleagues, and then the second line is the words that I would have said to parents. Litany of a Cardiologist. Cyanotic, hypotensive, acyanotic, blue, mottled, pink, as in baby. Systole, diastole, asystole, contract, relax, stop, as in heart. Arrhythmia, bradycardia, tachycardia, abnormal, slow, quick, as in beat. Pansystolic, ejection, vibratory. Long, crescendo, musical, as in murmur. Stenotic, incompetent, bicuspid. Narrowed, leaky, deformed, as in valve. Hypertrophic, hypoplastic, dilated. Thickened, unformed, enlarged, as in ventricle. Dyspneic, crepitation, syncope. Breathless, crackles, faint, as in failure. Congenital cardiac anomaly, born with heart disease, as in child. In this next poem, the child may have grown up, but if that child had been born in the 1960s or 70s, there was little that could be done for children with severe or complex heart problems. If they survived into adult life, they often had inoperable heart and lung disease. This poem is a tribute to one such young patient that I had who had the most indomitable spirit, and I looked after him even as an adult. Transplant is not an option. Your lips darken to purple blue as decades lay a palisade of fibers to narrow vessels in your lungs and exclude the oxygen. Impervious as your arteries, you plan a trip to Goa. Between truncated breaths, you tell me of Peru, where a cylinder of gas slipped from your wheelchair as you bartered for a clay pot at Chinchero Market in the Sacred Valley. You staccato suck the air. Your wife packs sunscreen and your hat.
Oh, lovely.
I seldom write in the voice of a parent, but just occasionally that voice insists on being heard. Today's news. The doctor shuffles papers on the desk between us. Please sit. Are you Sophie's father? Her newborn name so fresh, my tongue stumbles. I nod an answer. His eyes slide towards the door behind my head. She has a problem with her heart. He tears paper from my baby's notes, sketches lines intersecting, contrails going nowhere. Jargon buffets me like shockwaves through concrete and steel. He lists operations, fixes them in ink. Weeks in hospital, how many I can't say. The clock has stopped at 9:59. The nurse brings something in a mug with "I love New York" in red letters. She upsets a vase of plastic roses, disturbs the dust. After she has gone, my spoon taps away the silence. Someone has spilled coffee on the carpet. A picture of buildings hangs angled on the wall. I swallow tea more bitter than the builder's brew left in my flask from yesterday. I emerge from the windowless room, past the television. A second tower is tumbling. I can't stop. I'm trying to bury my own bad news today. Passing something on. A boy told his parents he wanted to be an organ donor if he died. The ventilator clicks and wheezes as I measure your bequest and calculate its strength as an organ of propulsion. Although you cannot feel my touch, I wipe the gel gently from your chest, print patterns of your heart's flow and ebb. I clip the pictures to your charts. The monitor marks last moments. An infusion pump continues a little longer. Under a sheet in another shadowed room, a girl pants like one who cycles uphill, unsure if she can reach the top. Your gift will let her crest that rise, freewheel past celandine, buttercups, poppies, the first wild strawberry. She will feel the tap of your heart, light as the wings of a butterfly on honeysuckle.
Beautiful, stunning.
Before I read the last poem, I'd like to thank Greg and Rodney for inviting me to read tonight, and for all of you coming for the evening and listening. My Zoom is being read. I'm reading my pamphlet on Zoom on Saturday between 4 and 5. It's arranged by the publisher Against the Grain Press. And if you want to come, you could, I think there are still places, you could email me. And Rodney and Greg have got my email address, and I can direct you to the Against the Grain website, where you can reserve a place and get the link.
When is it?
It's on Saturday from
this Saturday.
This coming
what time?
Saturday, 30th, from 4 to 5.
Okay, what is the title of your pamphlet? Can you?
The title is Litany of a Cardiologist.
Okay, thank you.
quite sort of predictable, isn't it?
Beautiful.
In my last poem, I discuss about how I felt when I retired, and I missed my work dreadfully. And I was still doing some lecturing, and one day I was looking through a medical textbook to look something up, and I found a note that I had written. It was just a list of tasks that I had to do, and it had been from some years earlier. And it gave me such a feeling of longing for the work that I'd done. This poem came out of it. Return. Find Monique CT and angio, MRI tomorrow. Discuss Emma B, Jamie, Jade at the surgical meeting. A memo long lost in a tome between cardiac failure and cyanotic heart punches a hole beneath my ribs, blocks my breath. On Wednesdays, I wipe my hands to banish the slip slide of gel as someone else scans a heart smaller than a lemon pip. On Fridays, I strip leeks and slice potatoes to palisade my mind against the tumble of children in the clinic in my head. I splash water to stifle a baby's cry, a boy's laugh. I rinse them from the chambers in my chest. I could take the identity badge, tossed in a box beneath the desk in my study, drive to the hospital, and use the entrance where anyone can go in. Perhaps the code to the office is still the same. I might hang my coat behind the door with my name in block capitals. I might thread familiar corridors. enter intensive care, wash my hands, join the ward round. Sorry I'm late. Just a bit of silly fantasy.
Fabulous, fabulous. Bravo. Really
Thank you very much, Denise, for those
Great.
wonderful
Really amazing.
poems.
Beautiful.